Greetings, everyone! After an extended hiatus, we're returning to Emperor Rise of the Middle Kingdom and moving on to the third dynasty in the run, the Zhou dynasty, subtitled Turbulent Winds. When a ruler does not retain the mandate from heaven, his reign will surely end. Thus it is that the mighty family of Zhou has been victorious in battle and now rules supreme over the fertile valleys and rough peaks of the Yellow River Basin. Truth be known, though the Shang people left us much painstakingly crafted bronzeware, their rulers lost their heavenly mandate. It is now time for change and progress, and time for the Zhou. This is the first point in time that the idea of the mandate of heaven really comes into play in China. And the concept of heaven there is more along the lines of the cosmos, or the natural order. That is, that reality itself is endorsing a particular ruling family or dynasty as being the legitimate rulers of China. There very much is a might makes right core to the idea of the mandate of heaven. If a rebellion succeeds in overthrowing the current ruling class, then that's a demonstration they've lost the mandate and you have acquired it. But if you lose, then that's a demonstration that your rebellion was in error and they still have the mandate of heaven and are the legitimate rulers. But there's more to it than that as well. If there are natural disasters, droughts, the empire comes under hard times for one reason or another, that is taken as a sign that perhaps the mandate of heaven has been removed and is no longer in force. And it's almost an encouragement then for some types of revolt to occur. There's also the fact that noble birth is not a requirement here. It's simply unto the capability. If you can acquire even somebody coming from the lower classes of society, if you can acquire the popular support, military support necessary to overthrow the current dynasty, then you can have the mandate and you're not restricted from that simply because of the situation of your birth. The Zhou appear to have invented this concept of the mandate of heaven to justify and legitimize their claim, and it's a concept that will continue to be used in China for millennia. But it's also quite suspicious for that reason, and also because of one of the reasons that they use it is they look back and say, this is no different than when the Shang kicked out the Zhou dynasty, but again, we have no records of the Zhou dynasty from the Shang era. The first we read of them is when the Zhou are writing about them. Did they even exist? That question has to be pondered to a degree. And it also makes it very difficult to assess in dynastic China the transition between different ruling families. There's a built-in incentive then to demonize the previous group and say, well, they weren't really worthy of the mandate of heaven, but we are, and this is our claim, and this is why their claim was bunk. The last king of the Shang is probably a victim of this. Very compelling and controversial character, in my opinion. His name was Di Jin, and ruled for almost 30 years, and early on, at least according to the information we have, probably was a remarkably skilled and gifted ruler. Very intelligent, very gifted physically, really decisive and benevolent. And then he gets married, and this is where a lot of the questions start to creep in. At the very least, some of the characterizations of him are almost certainly false. But according to the stories, he becomes greatly influenced by his wife, who is an evil and sadistic woman. Di Jin withdrew from many of his official responsibilities, descended into corruption and decadence, taxing the people heavily to pay for this, becomes very ruthless, burns people of various classes, from peasants all the way up to government officials alive. Various cruel forms of torture are devised, even kills his own uncle at one point. It's basically the stereotypical picture of a monarch gone bad. Regardless of how much of this is reality and how much of it is nonsense, during this time period, the Zhou are the most powerful vassal, I guess you might call them, on the western flank of the Shang, and allowed their military expeditions to securely go forth in other directions. But the Zhou begin to gradually expand and take territory of key Shang allies. Di Jin is apparently oblivious to this or just doesn't care. He's more focused on other matters and basically feels that he's invulnerable. And eventually there is a confrontation which they estimate took place in the year 1046, but it could have been before or after that, at the Battle of Muye. Even reduced modern estimates of the forces involved put the numbers at probably a little over 50,000 on each side. So this is not a couple of ragtag militias encountering each other. This is a major, major battle. And as the story goes, the Zhou army, though possibly outnumbered, is much better in quality. Their chariots crash through the Shang lines. It's pretty soon turning into a rout. They round up the Shang army, and I wish I could say that they simply, gave them the opportunity to join the new regime, but apparently they were shown virtually no mercy and systematically slaughtered. There's a rather chilling phrase that enough blood was spilled to float a log. Dijin escapes, goes back to his palace, gathers all of his favorite treasures and items around him, and commits suicide by setting himself and the entire thing on fire. So this is not a sweet lullaby, pretty as a painting type of story. It's definitely a brutal and gruesome conflict, but one that ends decisively in favor of the Zhou. Theirs is a complex tale of their time and power, but the longest-running dynasty in Chinese history.
Toppling the paper tiger kingdom of Shang was easy compared to the task now at hand. The far-flung lands need to be united and ruled by a strong but just hand. Our new king, Wu Wang, the son of heaven, is well suited for the job. As royal administrator of the Zhou capital of Hao, the burden on the king will be eased if you perform well. There are vassals that must be controlled and rivals usurped. As you guide the development of the city, you should keep a watchful eye on the other cities of the kingdom, particularly Shu. If a hen strays too far from the flock, she must be promptly brought back before becoming lost. Do not hesitate to use the king's army if the need arises. As for the capital itself, ornate sculptures should be built to beautify the boulevards of the upper class, and graceful arched bridges used to span the powerful Wei River, a river that at times can be quite unpredictable and dangerous, especially during the spring rains.
So we've got more of a military focus for this particular scenario, Hao and Wei. We need one allied city. We need to rule 3 cities. Both of those are new. And then 40 people in the humble compound, which is the 3rd tier of elite housing. This is a very large map, and we've got a lot of money, 14,400. But I find it's much easier on this one to just click around other than scrolling, because it just takes a while to move from one part of the city to another. And these 2 loops that they've set up here, square rectangular loops of the road, they seem to want us to put housing in here or something similar, but I'm actually going to largely ignore those for most of the map. Looking at the broader picture, I'm not a huge fan of this scenario, and one of the reasons is we've got all of these various cities around. We will need to use our military to attack, and almost all of them are walled cities, which we don't actually have the proper military tools at this point in the game to conquer walled cities efficiently. So for our first map that we have to go out and conquer other locations, it feels like not the best possible design there. We do have a couple of cities that are giving us tribute here. See, Khufu is dedicated, and also Anyang, and so that will be very beneficial to us. But in this time period, it's what's known as the Western Zhou dynasty. And then there will be a couple of phases later on, moving into the Eastern Zhou. The difference between Western and Eastern is not the location of the empire itself, but specifically where the capital is. Because we're starting out in the city of Ho, but historically, there's actually a twin city capital at this point, which I think is sort of an interesting historical oddity. On the opposite side of the Feng River, there is the city of Feng. So it's actually traditionally known as Fengho for the official name of the capital. Very reasonable decision, I think, to condense it down for the purposes of the game. There's a lot to go through in the Zhou dynasty, and they only have a handful of scenarios in which to do it, but I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit. I'm starting out with 2 housing loops to begin. We're going to need lots of recruits to get all the forts we're going to want for our military, so that's the purpose there. I'm building one of our new items here, a pavilion. Wayside Pavilion. just so that we can evolve this watchtower up with the rocks and trees that are nearby. You can also do round ones, but as it turns out, in this spot, very little has good feng shui, but the square pavilion does, the round one does not. So that's the reason behind that choice. Another very similar one over in this direction. And then we have our farming. Silk is going to be our cash crop, so I've got 2 of those set out. We're going to need 2 full-size farms to feed everybody, and then here's the hemp, which will not come in till the next year. So if we look at our options, we have cabbage, millet, and wheat. So we can grow 3 different crops. That's going to get us off to a good start. We'll need a 4th food type later, actually, but this is going to get us quite a ways by itself. No hunting and no fishing available on this map, but pretty much everything else that we're going to want to do, we can. On the industry side, we've got clay pits, we can do some logging, bronze smelters, ceramics, bronzeware, weavers, and jade carver studio. And I'm going to use most of that, but probably not the jade on this map, but it is an option. We import jade and export the product. We're just going to stick with the silk, though, as that's readily available and should work well for us. And I've got the spies going out to all of the neighboring cities as well. Notice my cash down to 5,000, but we now get a couple of tributes from Khufu and Anyang. And then here we go. People are rapidly arriving. As usual, I have the water fountains on, but nothing else to begin.
It's a dangerous business, this espionage. But someone has to do it.
Indeed, and I'm glad all of you are brave enough to go ahead and get that done for me so we know what's going on with our potential rivals. Well, that didn't take long. Anyang rebels. I literally haven't even had time to get the spies out of the city. Your behavior has been reprehensible. What behavior? Noble Jiru of Anyang am revolting. You can forget about my tribute payment. I'm not going to trade with you either. Now, I saw a walkthrough on the Emperor Heaven website, which says that only happens on very hard difficulty. Any of the lower difficulties, even hard and below, you can keep all of the neighboring cities in the fold, but not possible on very hard. So that's a lovely little punch in the gut for us. There's going to be a lot of people streaming in with all of this housing, and the way this map is going to go, given how many people I'm going to utilize, there's a few economy of scale issues that I haven't really had to deal with before because I've built smaller cities. So we're starting to get into some new challenges there as well. Definitely time for us to pump up our watchtowers. We've got more labor coming in. And then we'll head over to the farms, because those will be next. It's already farming season for the wheat, but we can't really do it yet, so we just have to wait for the people to come in. And I'll wait till I have fully enough of them. I'm not going to be doing any labor juggling on this map. We're just going to take it as it comes. There isn't anything that's a huge enough rush that I absolutely need to do that, so we'll get a partial wheat harvest, and then all the other crops should be working more optimally. Waiting for enough people here, and you can see on the mini-map they are continuing to stroll in to get our second farm going. There we are. So now we are going to set up Inspector's Tower right here. And one roadblock there. I'm going to put one about here. And I'm actually going to want a second Inspector's Tower up in this direction. If we throw it there. Just to make sure everything's covered. So you'll cover all the way down to this. And then you'll cover up this way, including this section, because this right here is open to inspectors for the reason that I want my market square in that area. So that's where our food is going to come eventually. And then we need a mill, but I don't think we have the people for it. Nope, not quite yet. There are enough demand for food on this map. I'm eventually going to go with 2 food shops and 2 mills. But we'll, of course, be doing one of each to start. And you can go right there. So cabbage, millet, wheat are our 3 crops. Get a healthy amount of each of those. And that's enough for our first warehouse. And there's a nice spot for these fitting in there right by our inspector. Just accept on these. But otherwise, the same amounts. And that's our food storage. Then I want to get my watchtowers rolling before unrest builds. Zhou becomes hostile. We were warned about them in the briefing. I am loath to speak your name, blah, 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 blah. Pan Mei of Zhou. We've heard all that before. Obviously, they're pointing us towards making you a target. They don't tell you have to take over specific cities, but they're saying this is a good one for you to target. Okay. All of that is in place. I'm going to now build up a bit of an industrial area. Down this way. And the people continue to come in. Although before I do that, actually, I need ancestor shrines. Yes, the city doesn't have enough food, and hygiene is no longer perfect. So we'll want to deal with those. Make sure our shrines, though, don't limit the early growth. And nothing going on our mill just yet. There we could just saw them coming in with our first bit of food, which we gobbled up quickly. Particularly if we actually build a food shop. So let's do that. Okay, where are we sitting labor-wise? We got plenty. So we can put up the inspector's tower here. Go and block you off. And I'm going to throw up a clay pit. Right about there. I just want some ceramics in order to have something to basically give our homage bribes with early on and make sure we don't get into trouble with that. And then later on, of course, to supply the population demands that will come. And in they come, strolling in as we continue to improve our housing area. There we go. Kiln. Second warehouse. You can hold basically a whole bunch of stuff, really. It's going to be all-purpose. We got wood. We're going to want some hemp. And we're quite a ways away here from the hemp farm, but we'll get them there eventually. The food delays will be, or deliveries, I should say, will be delayed to an extent, but we'll eventually get them where they need to be. They'll just be running virtually year-round in terms of hauling those items about. And then silk also later on. And we're starting to get our ceramics going. We're up over 500 people. This is all set in place. Where should we go next? Well, I'm going to start another area down here because I want to get wood going. Get some logging, we can eventually get some government, some taxes going on, and we don't lower our funding too much. So, if we for now just put up one logging shed, there's a decent wooded area down here. And that should be sufficient. Oh, let's definitely make sure that we have a roadblock here too. And you're going to get stuck down here for a minute, but we'll be fine. You'll get respawned and deal with any needs there. November. And they're a little concerned about our hygiene. I'd like to get herbalists out, but I'm not going to do that quite yet. What I'm going to do is make sure that all of my farms, I want these to be coming on by April. That's when hemp and silk start up, and I want both of those to be going full speed this next year. So I'm just going to wait to get enough for them. Looks like they're done with millet and just on to cabbage for the rest of this year. Then, of course, you definitely will need a hemp shop as well. Make sure all of our ducks are in a row there. And we don't have a great deal more people that are going to actually move in at this point. There will be more, but of course, to upgrade too much further, we are going to need increased food supply. We can see we only have millet over here right now. Here comes some cabbage. So I think at this point we can probably upgrade to our second tier of food. That'll get some more of these plain cottages in, but to go beyond that, we need the hemp. So let's go ahead and throw in... I'm going to put an herbalist stall over here. And then... we'll just call it over here. Really? Out of employees? How many are we short? New Year arrived. 3. I'll suffer 3. There's Khufu's tribute. At least they're still loyal. Some more gardens over here. A little more beautification can't possibly hurt. And more people are coming in, so that small worker shortage will be alleviated. Now we have some wood here. As soon as we get the people, I think it's time to go up with the administrative city. The second farming season will begin soon. You can see there's still items here that they're going to work on grabbing and carting around. But they'll eventually get it all over here. And of course, it just takes time to get all of this food over to this many houses. But it will happen. Grabbing a bunch more food. And it looks like we are starting... yeah, this area over here is completely upgraded. And now this peddler looks like it's going to take care of that area. Beautiful. And that's enough. Administrative city. Same inspector walking down this boulevard can take care of them. And then we can get a couple tax offices going. Looks like we might need a few more people to come in. Housing for some more people. I think it's time to get our weavers set up because they have already started working on the silk, haven't they? Yes. I'm not going to harvest it till next month, but let's have somewhere for it to go. And this is basically the last thing I want to do in this period before we get hemp and the jump that comes with that. Yep, 11 people, okay. Add you on. Throw up a third. But now, hemp is not harvested until the end of the year. September, so we've got a few months to just hang out and wait and spin our wheels, and there's not a whole lot that I can productively do in that time period, other than make sure I'm not falling way behind on my homage offerings. So we'll throw a few crates at Huangdi, whose military prowess we are going to be interested in acquiring for this mission. In comes our first delivery of hemp, forward to October, and I'm going to take a moment to put up our final weaver. Plenty of silk to be delivered to them, so they'll be busy soon. Farming continuing. And just wheat available over here for the time being until they cart in some more. I am going to want, as they buy up our hemp and bring it to the market, upgrade our housing by adding music. So we'll create a little bit of a road access point there. And now our housing being upgraded. And in comes the next wave of immigrants. Some silk finally being produced here. So all of that is heading in the right direction. That should be enough. And up to 1,000 people. Music in, and I also want a second food shop. And a ceramic shop to round out our starting market square. Now, do we have... Yes, we do have cabbage coming in, so I think we're at a point I can jump up to appetizing food. And then I'm going to put up a second mill. Don't need it quite yet, but as the population grows, this additional buffer will help. We're also going to have some offers to be given fish, so I'm going to allow them to take that in this mill. And then the same 3 that we are producing. No festival, thanks. But plenty of room here. More hemp coming in. Our next tribute from Khufu. And it's time now, with our unemployment going up, to add more to the city. I could go with elite housing at this stage, but we're going to need a lot of weapons, meaning a lot of bronze and time involved, to fill the forts that I'm going to want to build. So I'm going to go with bronze first. Up here in the northwest, we have a little bit here and here, but the majority is on this hill. So I'll focus in there. And it's kind of a tight squeeze. I could put Inspector's Tower up here, but it would block off road access. Just enough room if I put it here. And we'll make our way through there with just enough room, and then back this way to another ramp, which can lead us eventually back to civilization. We do need road connections all the way back in order to get labor for the Inspector's Tower. Then I will want a bridge, as the briefing told us, to cross the river. And this looks like we're blocked off over here, but there's actually one narrow place we can get through if we go around to the northeast. So this is sort of a interesting path along the riverbank. And one of those scenarios where, again, it just barely works, but it does. And now we are hooked up. Add a couple of bronze smelters. I'm going to want a total of 4, but 2 will fit up here, and then we sort of run out of good feng shui locations. All of that is hooked up. It appears to be working properly. I will slide over in this direction and get a couple of more. Reason I'm putting them here is they can then go to the east or to the west to grab more bronze as they need it. Probably not going to be running full tilt with all 4 bronze smelters, but I think that I'm going to want that many to produce as much as I can reasonably get. And another connection. Again, plenty of labor, under 2,000 cash now. We have to watch that, but we are in a good situation in terms of being able to bring in our bronze. Now let's do something with it. Put Inspector's Tower here and use this section for that. I want, first of all, to make sure that I'm producing bronzeware. So, I'll need a clay pit. And a bronzeware maker. Put you right down here. Then let's get some weaponsmiths. I'm going to start with 5. And there's some bad locations along the road. Can't use all of it, but there's a nice long stretch here. There we go. There's our 5th, and then I want somewhere to put all of this bronzeware, weapons, etc. And I want it to be as close as I can to where the elite housing is going to be, because they need the bronzeware. And that's going to be right in this zone. So, I will throw up a warehouse here. And an inspector next to it. Block off some paths. I'm going to store 3 things here. One is just bronze. There will be requests for tributes of bronze, gifts to other cities. So, I'm going to keep that option open. Then the bronzeware itself to be delivered to my elites. And also some weapons, because I'm not going to have all the forts for the weapons initially. And for all that goes, I could try to sell them eventually if I wanted, or there are other options available. So now we're down to a little over 1,000 cash. And I'm going to hold off on really spending any more money at the moment. I want to get some trade set up. Yeah, we've got silk waiting here, so let's do this now. I want to sell silk and get some food in. Nomad camps? Well, they're only supplying jade. That's no good. Pingyang? They'll supply us with cabbage and they want our silk, but we don't really want cabbage. We already have it. Shu, they produce silk. Anyang doesn't like us and they produce silk. Khufu, nope, that's not going to work either. Notice we have stone and salt, new commodities that we don't need for this mission, but future scenarios will find them useful. And then Wu is where I want to trade with. They want our silk, and they have 3 different food varieties for us to choose from. Let's bribe you with some silk. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and basically wait. Probably should throw another homage offering at Huangdi. We have some ceramic. Let's wait for a little bit more ceramics to build up, then I'll do that. More people continuing to come in. Unemployment's rising. I could lower wages a bit. I think I will try that at least 1 level. And then we'll also lower taxes to compensate.
He who keeps the old akindle and adds new knowledge is fit to be a teacher. Confucius says, he who keeps
But unemployment's still going up.
and adds new knowledge is
Here's some more ceramics.
teacher.
And Khufu decides they don't want any of our nonsense. Great. Okay, let's go ahead and give off to Huangdi. That should make you happy for quite some while. And I think we're also ready to send a trade request to Wu. They're happy with our silk. Good. Basically broke even wages and taxes last month. People keep streaming in. Triple figures unemployed. Over 2,000 people. So plenty to staff up what we need to do in the future, but the cash is not quite ready for that. And now trade is here. Excellent. Okay, so we're very slowly increasing our cash without trade, but this will boost us quite a bit more. Throw trading station there. Thankfully, this is a really nice road to just basically throw down an inspector's tower on. So we'll do something like that, say, if we need to move down further and build other items in the future. I want to sell silk, and I'm going to buy all the rice we can get. The reason it's rice is it's cheaper than fish or salt, and they're willing to sell more of it. So let's adjust our warehouse and our mills to accommodate. We'll go down to 8 of each. Keep the fish active here, otherwise, same deal. And we're just going to use our money here to buy up a whole bunch of rice initially, I'm sure. But once we get them buying some silk, then we'll be okay. And with a good imported resource for our 4th food, I think that our food supply problems really shouldn't be a long-term issue. We're just barely keeping up with the 3 that we have, but now we'll have an additional source. And they bought some of our silk and also delivered a whole bunch of funds for us. There's some more rice. A whole bunch of it there. So I'm just going to stay cautious until we can get some more silk sales in and be a little more secure cash-wise. A few more traders in, and now we're looking much better. Good stockpile of rice. Silk continues to be sold up to about 3,000 cash. We're ready to move forward, and I want to increase our ceramics, because we're at a position where we're producing just enough or a little bit more than we need with the 2 kilns, but I want to have a better stockpile going into dealing with the elite housing. So, plus we can always get some more people employed here. Then I want to deal with our bronze situation. I don't want to have the bronze carted all the way down here from our mining. I think that was a mistake. So we will stop that. We've got a good amount of weapons and a few bronzeware there. And then it's a bit superfluous, probably, but I'm going to throw a warehouse here for just bronze. I mean, it's only half a dozen people. We have all kinds of employees. So we can probably afford this kind of a thing. And with this map as spread out as it is, I'm going to take this route. Only bronze to be stockpiled there. And then we're actually overusing it. We're not really getting any saved up. So I'm going to knock out 3 of the weaponsmiths for now. Just so that just those 2 and then the bronzeware maker will run. And we'll rebalance this later. But I want to get some saved up. Okay, next. Let's get Palace rolling. We're already patrolling this area, so that should work well. There's a spy that was caught. But that'll give us the ability for a second fort. I want a couple of chariot forts down here. I'm going to do the rest infantry. But I want the chariots near the wood area, relatively speaking. And there are some decent spots along this road for them. So we'll put one there. Another one down this way. Say about there. And that should give them somewhere to put all of our weapons for now. And also start the production of our military side. And then we need to get the elite housing rolling. So we still have a good amount of people, and we're going to have to use the Grand Market Square here, because Common Market Square can only go up to appetizing food. We will need tasty food going forward for our elite housing. Let's get some blockers up there. Inspectors can come through here. You can add a little bit extra to your patrol route, but not through this one. These will only be open to the market employees. And then this width here is actually really good for what we're going to want to do for our housing. So we're just going to stick with it. And we're just going to run the gamut that way, and then up this way, and up here. And the trees will be able to work around them. Another spy. We got 2,000 cash left. So we will plop down some gardens as a divider. And I will have to rethink, because of the desirability issues, what I'm doing with how I set up my elite housing in the future. But this will work for our purposes in this session. Now let's get there we go. Get some of those down. Then we'll get our needs set up here. Throw a watchtower on this side. And a herbalist. We'll need an ancestral shrine. Just spreading them out just because we can. Also an acupuncturist, which we will also need for our common housing eventually as well. We might as well just throw those in place now. Yep, that was a misclick there. Try that one. And one over here. Fill in with gardens again. And then we'll also need an acrobat, which will benefit both common and elite housing. So we'll throw one of those down here.
Confucius says, "He who keeps the old
And the food looking a bit touchy, but then we have more millet coming in, so we should be fine. 28 left. I should still have enough to put up some farms, or some shops rather, not farms. Bronzeware, silk, ceramics, hemp, and then we're not going to be able to, should be just grabbing the cabbage now. That'll give us our fourth one. We can get the food here. I want to make sure we start off right away with tasty. And of course there is the 5th level of delicious, but we don't need that yet. So then everything can be brought into place eventually. New Year has arrived. We're pretty good. It says population is stable. I'm going to drop down the taxes 1 level just to encourage them to come in. I want to get everybody in here and see what they think of what we're doing. Because then we can boost to get our final forts in. Got a chariot there. Got a chariot here. I did want to... I think wood might be a little bit tight. I could put up another logging area, and that probably wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. So let's just add one. There we go. Looks like everybody's pretty much supplied up here. 2,300. We are at Lavish Sahawan, and you need wares, which are currently being delivered. They should be anyway. Okay, this is a great opportunity if we were ready. We are not, but Han Mei, leader of your Chinese rival Shu, has sent most of his military forces away. So it looks like, yeah, it looks like you're in need of some more appeal, possibly over here. Let's see about maybe putting some. Oh, this one boosted up. That one boosted up now. So did that one. Is it just this one? It appears just this one that's a little bit irritated with us for unknown reasons. Let's see if I just move the shrine over there, if that makes you happy. Yep. So we'll just remove that one. Okay, so we have 4 humble compounds. Now the thing is, we don't get... I messed around with this a bit. We don't get the extra fort from putting these up, either the Lavish Sahawan or humble compounds, until they've filled up with people. Or at least mostly filled up. I'm not sure exactly.
Energy flow along the city's meridians is exquisite.
Yay, good for it, but I'm not sure exactly where that line is. We definitely need to have them filled up. However, let's check and see if we are in position for that, and we aren't. We need to wait for more people to come in, but then if you go up to a higher level, I think it's Impressive Compound, or roughly around that level, you get 2 forts per elite housing, but you can only have a maximum of 12 in the city. We've not gotten close to that yet, but we are going to put 6 in on this particular run. Down to 600 cash, too. So I think we're going to just kind of chill out here for a bit regardless. More people coming, though. And for all I know, I may end up even keeping my wage rate at low. But we will see. Still nothing. But here comes some more people.
Don't worry, I'm very skilled.
Now we've got room for an infantry fort. So, yeah, right over here is a good spot. And we can build another one. Why not over here on this road? That's all they're giving us for now. We should be able to get 2 more in. How are we doing on the bronze? Not stockpiling any yet. But we appear to be building up amounts in the existing buildings first, so that's fine. Now we've got room for another one. See, these 2 up here. Let's build one across the river. Anywhere along this, or maybe up here on the hill? Nope. There's got to be somewhere over here where you'd like to have a fort. No, I just saw a decent one over here. Let's try that. Yeah, let's just try it right there. Build a little side road here. And then we'll just need one more. Still doing more than fine on our labor. Let's try somewhere sort of off the beaten path. Yeah, that'll work. Over by the farms area. That's our final fort. And now it's just a case of waiting. So here's our first bronze demand from Wu, and we want to make them happy because they're a key trading partner. 3 bars of bronze, 4 months to comply, but we've been probably very slowly gaining bronze, if anything. So I'm actually going to turn off even one more weaponsmith, which I don't really want to do, but I need to accumulate this so that we can bring our bronze to our trading partner and not have a problem with them. We are gradually accumulating soldiers here. We have our 2 chariot forts. They are up and running, but you see nothing happening over there yet, and slow progress on building up. We could import weapons, we could import more bronze, but I'm just gonna build it homegrown and just gradually ramp it up. Look over here. Currently we have 2 of them on, 2 of them off. They're continuing to work, though they bring more in and then they activate. So just a limited supply, and this should get us there right here. Fulfill their request. Yep, dispatch them. Excellent. So then I'm just going to wait to get a decent amount added there, and then I'll scale up my weapons production again. The year is now 1045, and if you recall the briefing, they said to be cautious of the river. Well, this is not actually Angry Ancestors, even though it's described that way. This is a scripted event. There will be a disaster this year if you haven't won this scenario just yet. So we have the river to deal with, and it floods, which is a good encouragement to not build anything too near the river. Now, it is possible to have something like an earthquake instead, but usually the river will simply flood. We just have to wait then for it to recede. We haven't, I don't think, seen a disaster yet anyway. What will happen is everything will be cut off from here, so we're not getting any inspection done while the river is flooded. That is bad. We could potentially have fires, other items, but it will eventually go back to where it was, and then we can clean up the mess. There we go. I don't think we actually had any buildings destroyed. So it's just a case of seeing if there's any particular fallout. Now, building's starting to turn on again. And it looks like we actually got pretty fortunate there. In the bronze scenario, we have turned on a second weaponsmith, and we're keeping a pretty solid amount in here. Oh, there we go. There we go, we got caught. But they put the fire out before any undue issues. But in any case, we do have enough bronze here that is at least keeping even. And I may end up being able to turn on a third weaponsmith here. I think we might have a slight surplus. But I'm going to wait a little bit longer before I pull that trigger. Well, that's up to 7 now. Yeah, it's definitely going up. I'll turn on 1 more. Try to speed up our acquisition. Got a few soldiers here. A few there. 1 here. So it's been very slow going with getting the weapons going, but hopefully that will upgrade our mobilization. Forward to May 1043, and we're getting another message of vulnerability, this time from Zhou, and I think that we are ready for it at this particular point. So we're going to begin sort of the attack conclusion phase, and typically when I've tried to attack the walled cities here, If I send 3 forts worth of troops, it's not enough. But we do have Huangdi in the city. I've just been appeasing him with mostly ceramics, keeping him around. And we have a decent amount of military force sent up. So my goal is to send 4 forts worth plus Huangdi, and that should take care of any problems, particularly with a vulnerable target. So we're going to conquer. We've got our 2 chariots available. We've got 2 full of our infantry, and then 1 of the other 2 is partway through building up. And we'll send Huangdi as well. And I don't know specifically the effect of all of this. I'm going to leave most of it on default, except go with the middle aggressiveness, alert target, or alert tiger rather, but I don't know how much, like, the invasion location affects. The game really doesn't give you a lot of information on that. So anybody with details on that, go ahead and let me know. But I'm just going to dispatch this as is. And we should probably work on our other project at the current time, which is allied cities. And I'm going to try to ally Pyongyang over here. They seem to be fairly kind to us overall. And we're just going to start bribing them. I'm going to give them some silk. And I doubt 1 will do enough. So I'll send 2 rounds of silk their way before I decide to actually try to make them my ally. And then we say hero abroad. And I want to make sure that Huangdi stays happy. I don't have really a lot to throw at you at the moment, though. I'll wait to gather up a little bit more ceramics. Or I've been throwing bronzeware occasionally, but mostly ceramics. At this point, I want to keep the silk for my bribes to get our ally. But it usually doesn't take that long to get there, and you can see nobody's here at the moment. We've been running 3 weaponsmiths most of the time. I had 4 briefly, but 3 seems to be the best balance point. And you're continuing to work. They're not going to bring weapons to train to forts that are dispatched from the city. They're at least smart enough to do that. Pyongyang, grateful for the silk. Excellent. We'll send you more when we have a chance. You're down to happy. Let's see. You know what? We have a decent amount of wood. I'll just throw you a stack of wood. Just whatever we can do to keep Huangdi around and being willing to help us out with our invasions. We're up to 4 silk, so we're going to need some more before we can go anywhere. But you can see the stockpile here going up and down, but it's successfully maintaining itself. And continuing to train more soldiers over here. This one hasn't gotten any weapons yet. That's just sort of the one they want to bring them to last. Zhang, a new army from the nomad camps coming. And this kind of thing will tend to happen when we send off most of our troops from the city. But most fierce strategic sage, your army was victorious, and its leader Pan Mei is ashamed. Now owes us tribute. Excellent. So that's 1. We rule 1 of our 3 cities that we're trying to acquire. Okay, we're up to 8 silk again. And they're making their way back. But we're going to gift then Pyongyang. 1 more time. So there's quite a few things to just sort of keep around. You're down to happy again. We'll throw more ceramics at you. And that should keep you happy for a few more months. The moon goes down fairly quickly from Exalted, so it takes a fair amount of resources to just keep him happy. We probably should hang around just a little bit here. and deal with that invasion from the nomad camps before we go out and capture some more cities. But it appears to be all over but the shouting at this point. We dispatch, it's probably been long enough, our alliance request. And here comes all of our glorious troops, most of which have survived the assault. But we do have to retrain some losses. And Pyongyang happy for our second group of silt. Excellent. Pyongyang has now become our ally, and that satisfies another requirement. We just need to handle the upcoming invasion then and conquer 2 more cities, and we are out of here. Well, the Xiongnu are upon us. They've got some sort of foot soldiers here, and as well as a lot of horsemen. So it appears that they've sent a larger group than we have seen in the past. Now we are going to want to defend against them. It looks like they're making a beeline to our farms. So I'm going to send everybody there and just see how this plays out. Definitely glad I kept everybody around though, because it looks like a sizable group, more than we dealt with previously. So that's all of our infantry forts that are ready, and then the chariot forts are harder to actually get clicked on for whatever reason. Nonetheless, if we can... You're already moving. I need the other group. If you would, please. There we go. You move over here as well. And let's see what happens. Now, of course, they've got to get across the river. But they're still heading that same direction. And they appear to have brought 4 forts worth of combatants. But our chariots are ready. And they're going to fire at them, back and forth. In they come. Yeah, not exactly the best scenario for us, but we have some infantry coming, more infantry coming. And definitely losses happening on both sides. Once you get in there. Losing some chariots. There will definitely be some cleanup necessary after this battle. Well, it looks like they're pretty much done for. Let's go ahead and... Oh, they've got more over here. Okay. That should do it. And they're just shooting at us. I'm presuming they're going to eventually retreat. Yep, they're running away. We're just waiting for them to leave the map. The weakling soldiers of the nomad camps are in full retreat, led by their embarrassed ruler. They actually put up a pretty good invasion there. I don't know about all that. Okay. If we take a look at our final two conquests then, if we went to go to Anyang, what do we have left? So we lost about a little over half of our chariots, but we have a good amount of our infantry left. And in all of that scenario, we actually had a situation where we lost Huangdi. We want to get Huangdi back, and then notice we can also enlist our allies in Pingyang. We'll want to do that too. Let's get our troops organized a little bit more first before we actually go off and fight. Huangdi has returned, and that means it is time to go on the attack again. We had quite a bit of weapons built up. You can see the bronze here. We are doing quite well. So let's wrap this up. We're going to go to Anyang first. We will take Pingyang and Huangdi, and for... yes, demoralized, lovely. We will let them just stay where they are then. They can be our defensive group. We've almost fully recovered our military quite quickly, so let's just go on after it. We have gotten a bronzeware request from Pingyang, but we were able to easily fulfill that, and so that just solidified that alliance. No other issues really. Cash has been okay. We're not making a ton of money, mostly because we've been using silk for tribute payments and whatnot, or homages, but the food continues to hang in there. So, not printing money, but we're doing very solidly, and we just need to finish our conquest as our troops head off on their way. And let's give them a bit of a speed boost in doing so. I guess we just keep stockpiling weapons while they do that. And Anyang has been handled. The rebellion message is quite different. Most understanding and forgiving strategic sage. I humble myself before you. Your military forces have shown how wrong I was to rebel. I am again your most loyal lapdog, and will resume trading with you and paying you tribute. Boy. Talk about sucking up. Jiru, you suck up with the best of them. So now we just wait for them to return and head off to our final city. We are currently ruling 2. Meanwhile, our activity in the city continues as it was before. Our brave soldiers have returned. In they flood, and Huangdi is among them, still at Exalted. He was kind of stuck at Exalted for a while, and then he finally came into the city, so I think I built up some extra goodwill with him. Nonetheless, we sort of wait for everybody to filter back in. It's a big city. It takes a while for the troops to cross it. Might be sort of dignified to let them at least return to their fort before I send them off on one final expedition. They're probably getting sick of this yo-yo effort. But, you know, it's a hard life being a soldier in the Zhou dynasty of China. And you are at your maximum number. You don't even need to retrain any losses. Okay, let's take a look then at Khufu. Rebelling. And nobody is demoralized anymore, which is nice. Once again, we'll send out Huangdi. Once again, we'll send Anyang. It doesn't allow us to send Pingyang anymore. I think there's a time limit. You can only send your allies out as assistants so many times, but if you have multiple allies, it will only allow you to send one of them, even if there's more than one on the list. In any case, it really doesn't particularly matter at this point because we have plenty. Same setup as before. If you would go make Khufu rejoin the fold, then presumably Wuwan, the Son of Heaven, will be pleased with our efforts and we'll get to move on to our next challenge. People think you are enlightened. Boy, do I have them fooled. Emissary from Wu once again wants more fish. We've had about 3 or 4 of those donations at this point. And we've actually spent a full decade here at Ho. So I don't mind saying that I'm kind of looking forward to this scenario ending and moving on to our next challenge. It can be done much faster, of course, depending on how you approach it, what restrictions you give yourself, but there we go.
During your tenure as royal administrator of Hao, capital of the Zhou kingdom, prosperity and good government have gone hand in hand. It is truly an accomplishment of which to be proud.
Excellent. So that was a long one, but it is now over, and we can move on to our second adventure in the Zhou dynasty. That'll be coming up next time on Emperor Rise of the Middle Kingdom. Thanks for watching, everyone.